Hi, this is Pat Sheranian, and we are back, and my second guest did make it this hour. He has come down from Evanston, Wyoming, and there was a huge accident, I understand, on I-80.
Yeah, there was semis backed up like you can't believe, and all of a sudden a life flight helicopter comes flying in way ahead of us, and so I found a place to cut through the medium and take another route.
And he got here, which we're glad for that. And Pam will be on with us again, and we're going to hear more about political issues going on not only back east, but here in the Utah area. We really appreciate her. My guest is Duane Erickson. He was on last Wednesday with some interesting information, and I watched the show and thought about it, and I thought, this man has a lot more to say. And so I've invited him back for a half hour, which is not even enough time for him to hardly get into an introduction of anything. But we're going to find out if you like the topic and find it interesting. One of the things we try and do across this noon hour, Monday through Friday, is bring interesting information and entertainment and make us think. And I've enjoyed it with some of the guests that we've had on. We have to think a little bit and have to ponder our own feelings and see if we agree with it. Over the last few years, I have, like many of us here locally in Provo and Utah area, well, around the world really, have read the Book of Mormon. And to some extent understand it and the history of it. And it has been exciting to us. And then somebody comes along and says, wait a minute, I read the same book, and this is what I found. And so I'm somewhat intrigued by that. And I'm more apt to say to someone, prove it. And so I'm excited today because Duane started talking about this last week. And then after the show, he was on with Lawrence Law. And after the show, he brought in this little book called the Book of Mormon. The way that he has shown it here. It's a study guide, and I want him to explain what's on the cover. So if you take this off, then they possibly can see it. That's just too glossy. Because it looks like it's a waterfall. If you'll hold it up. Yeah, there you go. I think you can see that. And to the radio audience, it looks like two waterfalls that are just simply streaming down the side of a mountain. That's not what it is, but that's what it looks like it is. And so I'm going to start with this particular picture, then go back because I'm interested in why Duane got, we read the same book. He got different information out of it than I did. So I'm curious about that. But let's start with this picture because I'm intrigued by it.
Well, this is a picture of what they call Devil's Slide in Weber Canyon. It's actually two layers of rock that are standing on end. It was never a slide, and the devil didn't make it.
But if you laid it down flat, then we would see this raised.
Yes,
is that correct?
It was originally created
this
laying on its side.
Okay.
And if you study the rock formations all around this, you'll see there's all kinds of this type of structure on both sides of the road. And to me, in reading the Book of Mormon, I've always believed it to be history. I don't know why we can't prove its history. You
mean the Book of Mormon
yes,
per se? Well, it's a history of a people, sure.
Well, yeah, but
where is it?
To the rest of the world, without tying it to the land, it has to be a book of fiction. And so I think it's kind of an uphill battle to not be able to identify the lands where those people lived their lives and created that history. And so one of the biggest events in the Book of Mormon, geologically speaking, is the land changes that took place at 34 A.D. And so somewhere on our planet, these land changes have to be a reality. And so... and then I started seeing little things in my own backyard, basically, that
are we talking earthquakes?
Oh, yes. Well, if
If
you
you've
read the
lived
Book
in
of Mormon,
California, you understand earthquake. I don't care where else you live if you live in California.
well, those are little toy earthquakes
Okay, so
compared to
these
this.
were massive things that actually moved
Actually
continents.
changed the whole land, and it actually destroyed a population that had been living on that portion of the land for about 500 years. Now, we only been here for 350 years, so how many people we got in America and how many people we got in the West, and then to think that an earthquake or a earth-changing happening like this destroyed all those people on the western part of this continent is unbelievable. And so there has to be evidence of that. Well, I started looking for them, and they're all over the place.
The evidences.
Yes, all over the place, especially in Salt Lake Valley.
That's interesting because, and I do find this interesting, but now let me back up because I promised I would. Now he's kind of described this thing and what it is because I looked at it and thought it was a waterfall. It's not. It's erosion of the earth where it has come up hundreds of feet above the landscape. It's just risen up out of the ground, right?
Well, it's standing on end, and it's been, what happened is it describes in the Book of Mormon as this happening.
So if I were looking
place.
at it this way, would it look like that? Where
Yes.
it has, okay.
Yes.
All right. So if you're, this is drawing 101, last kindergarten, but it would be a flat surface then with these peaks coming up out of the ground. And this is a whole ribbon of peaks, just
Yes.
entirely, but it's hundreds of feet.
Yes. It's all over the place. I've had other pictures in here
So
I was
these
trying to look
ridges that come up are not just here in Utah, they're all over.
for. They're all over, and you can follow them right from St. George all the way across the northern part of the state. All the way across there. I've got so many pictures of it. It's unbelievable.
And what does that mean then?
It means that something had to have happened to create those
To
structures
have these
like
things
that.
come bursting up
Yes,
through. Okay.
and it's all explained in the Book of Mormon. It's not in any science book, but it is completely described by 3 or more people in the Book of Mormon. And so if the Book of Mormon is true, I just want to find those evidences, and I found them, and they're all over the place.
And you've spent a lifetime.
Yes.
But you've done other things. We're going to talk about
course.
that too. So I want to go back to the beginning. All right. We all, if you're in seminary, you read the Book of Mormon. If you have family home evening as a child, you grew up reading the Book of Mormon. At what point did you go, whoa, I'm not reading what everybody else is reading. I think I found something new.
Well, I started out as a very, very poor reader. I'm still a poor reader. But anyway, so it took me a lot longer to be able to understand what was being said in the Book of Mormon than my friends. And, I always heard that we should read the Book of Mormon, we should pray about it, and we should ponder it and so on. I tried to do that. And in time, it ends up that I really developed a love for those people in the Book of Mormon. And I want to know where they lived, and I wanted to walk the ground where they had walked. I like to do things, firsthand and see what it brings to me. And so initially I went to Central America because
I started
everybody...
to say you probably went on a tour because we all thought that was
No,
the
I
Book of
didn't go on a
Mormon.
tour. I took a pack on my back, and I went down there. I even took my bow and arrow with me in those days, and they let me carry it on the airplane.
That was a while ago.
Yes, it was a while ago. But I went down there, and I just had a ball visiting the various different ruins and things like this, and meeting the people and living with them, and going on jungle dugout canoe trips. And then finally it ends up, after a number of trips, I had a crazy thought, and that thought was that Christ didn't build pyramids. And here I'd taken the more part of about 2,600 slides of pyramids and things around the pyramids. And
Well, that's kind of a broad statement. Christ didn't build pyramids, okay?
yes.
People build pyramids.
Well, he didn't. I'm thinking the thought that came to me is that he didn't have anything to do with the building of a pyramid. And so that kind of, after thinking about that for a while, it kind of changed my whole direction and fouled up my Book of Mormon land, thinking it was in Central America. So then I had to find another place. And it so happens that I'm also crazy about waterways. and rivers and things. I had designed a special type of family canoe, and that got me into waterways. And so waterways in the Book of Mormon were very important to me, and to think that the River Sidon would have been recorded in a history that was recorded on gold plates was, it must have been pretty special. And so I wanted to find that River Sidon. And so I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how I could locate that River Sidon. I knew it had to be a major river in the land, and a major river in the land is fed by all these other rivers to make it big. And so after figuring out what it would have been like, I studied that evidently it either ran from the north to the south or the south to the north, because there's no mention of any activities on the north or the south, but there's activities on the east and on the west where they cross the river one way or the other, and there's ruins and battles and things that take place on the east or the west side of the river, so it had to run either north or south.
Had anyone tried to pinpoint that River Sidon in Central America?
Well, I think they tried to put those in there, but there just really isn't a north-south river in Central America that's a major river in Central America or South America. And the reason that is because their mountains run basically from the north to the south down through the country. Well, that means that the water has to run off either to the west or to the east. And so it's pretty hard to have a river paralleling those mountains.
That's right. That's true.
But if you, in my eyes, I had a big world map on my wall, and I never thought it could possibly be in the United States. But as my eyes went up that big world map, and all of a sudden there's a blue streak, and it's running north to south, and it's in the middle of the United States.
And it's called?
It's called the Mississippi River. Well, the next thing is I thought of it as a quirk of nature, because in the United States we got two sets of mountains. We got mountains in the west, we got mountains in the east. And all the water from the sides of the mountain run towards that river and fill up that big river, and that runs out and empties into the Gulf of Mexico. And so I didn't even dare tell my wife at the time, and it sounds so ridiculous. I mean, I'd never heard that in a seminary class or a institute class or anywhere. And so I kind of poo-pooed the whole idea and tried to forget about it, and it just kept plaguing me until finally that's how I make my living as an inventor, and that's how I sift out the different ideas that I have to develop, and that's because they bother me more. And so I do something about them. And so I did something about this. I went and I found me a United States map that had a plastic coating on at that time, because we didn't have felt tip pens, we had grease pens.
Right.
And so I finally ended up with a United States map with plastic coating, and I started to play like that was the River Sidon, just to see how it fit.
Mississippi River.
Yeah. Secretly. I really didn't.
You didn't tell anybody at this point. Okay.
And so, but everything seemed to fit. And then all of a sudden, while I'm laying on the floor, this great big map, and I had marked the area of the Hill Cumorah, because my parents had taken me there when I was very young, and so I'd been there. And here I'm playing with the River Sidon, and the city of Zarahemla is supposed to be on the west bank of this river, so I took and put a circle with a Z in it on the west side of the Mississippi River. And while I'm kneeling down on the map and everything, all of a sudden I see these great big bodies of water, and it's the Great Lakes. I was on my knees, and I thought to myself, wow, what would those people call those bodies of water? So I got up and I went into my world map, because I wanted to get a comparison of the size of the Great Lakes and the Dead Sea and the Sea of Galilee, because that's where those guys came from.
Right.
And I couldn't believe it. I knew that they had called those bodies of water seas. Well, I had never found 4 good seas in Central America. There's only the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean, and there isn't any others. But here I now had at least 4 seas, and I had narrow necks and passes all around them, and it blew my mind. Well, that just created more interest, and that's how I got started in this theory. And I've been building on it, thinking that one of these days something would shoot the whole thing down and I could forget about it, but it just keeps building.
How old were you when that happened?
Well, it was in 19 I think it was 1978 when I first started with that theory.
You were a pup.
Yeah.
Young pup at that time. And so you've been following I want to say maybe the heartstrings and
Yes.
leading you into deeper thought, and you've uncovered a great deal of information. This is actually a book, but it's not ready to be published. It needs some work on it, but it's got amazing. I looked through this the other day, and I thought, who the world would take the kind of time that you have taken, and how many thousands of hours it would save the rest of us for the work you have done, which is always true with someone who's an explorer and a trailblazer. You've been out doing that.
Well,
But
one thing.
the maps are incredible, and they prove your point, which I find very, very interesting.
Well, what I've done is I created this more to get help than anything else. I've never done this to try to make money because I think that thwarts the whole purpose. And so, but anyway, what I have is maps that cover the major movements in all the history, including the Jaredite history. There's about 2,000 years of time. And and then I've included in with those maps all of the chapters and verses and page numbers and everything else of things that pertain to that particular time and that map that I've created. And now I'm just using the United States as my scenario now, and that's all it is. But I learn a lot from my friends and my people now that I share this with, because they come up with something that helps me either shoot something down or add to my collection. And so that's all it is.
They're not all in agreement
What do you mean?
with what's going on here.
Well,
There are
a lot of
people
them
that
aren't.
fuss with you.
But one thing I'd like to say is that it was interesting to me because farms, in their publication, they indicated to me that I was the first and only one that had used the United States for my Book of Mormon land.
This
and
is
now
an
everybody's kind of
organization at
jumping
Brigham
on the
Young
bandwagon.
University campus.
Yeah, farms.
And they have they really don't hand out accolades very often. So if they are in agreement with you on any part of this,
Well, what there was is there were 68 different theories at the time that I had approached them. 68 different theories of the geography of the Book of Mormon. There was not one using the United States. Dr. Sorensen asked me to supply mine to him, and in doing so, they then entered it in the book. And when they did, I guess I was either the 69th or 70th, because there's 70 of them now, and I was the only one in the list out of all 70 that used the United States as the Book of Mormon geography.
Book of Mormon land. Now, Rod Mildrum has been a friend for a
Yes.
number of years. And I mentioned that to you the other day, and you said that his theory is somewhat different, or your theory is different, or your proof is different.
Well, it's like Wayne May, who I first talked to. Wayne May, when I first met him, he does the Ancient American magazine. And I learned about his magazine when he first started publishing it, and it was full of all kinds of very, very, very interesting ruins and artifacts and things like that. And so I talked to Wayne, and he came out here to Utah, and we put on the first meeting here in Utah many years ago. I was suggesting that the Book of Mormon land was the United States, and he was offering the ruins that sort of substantiated that. Well, Wayne didn't have a geography theory of his own, and he had learned of one that a friend of mine had come up with. It was a 200-mile area by 250 miles or 300 miles, and it was around the Niagara Falls. And he was from here in Utah Valley, and Wayne had learned of that, and so he was kind of centering in on that theory. I told him at the time that, given enough time, his theory will expand and expand until it covers the United States. Well, it hasn't quite done that yet. And then Rod Meldrum came into the picture, and he was so excited about trying to do something about this, and he's a lot more gifted in being an orator and all that kind of stuff than I am. But he asked permission actually to use my theory, and then he went ahead and worked with Wayne May on their theory. Well, they've now their theories have now come to the Mississippi River area. They're on the eastern part of the United States, and all the fun things that they're offering are wonderful, and I can't tell you how accurate they are. I don't go into trying to locate each particular city. Zarahemla was the one I was more important.
Right.
But anyway, it ends up that I've now addressed the earth changes, which I think is an important part of the whole history. And if I can prove that those earth changes are in fact that what's described in the Book of Mormon, then we know where the land is, and that's where I'm dwelling at this point.
That's where you're headed. Mm-hmm. I want to comment on your board here before we get off the air because we're almost out of time. These are from where? These
are tablets that came out of Michigan. Now, there is a picture in here of the burial mounds. There's literally probably hundreds of thousands of burial mounds that were here before Columbus ever came to this part of the world. And in those burial mounds, they're all different sizes. Some of them have just one person in them. And they must be an awful special person because the mounds might be 20 feet high. I mean, that's a lot of earth to move to cover a loved one. And in those burial mounds, have been found these type of artifacts. This is a copy of a slate tablet, which blows my mind, actually.
Well, this is reminiscent of the kind of things that Hugh Nibley used to bring back.
Yes.
Or where he would stand there in pictures. I remember once at a fireside, I said, I wish I could read that, and he jumped right up and read it. They were his slides. And it was this kind of...
I knew him well.
That we were looking at. I mean, that was his personality. So when I saw this, I thought, well, where in the world did you get that? Because they're slightly different than anything I'd seen before.
Well, I've handled a lot of these tablets. The largest collection that has ever been found was found in the Michigan mounds in 28 different counties, and that collection ended up in Salt Lake City in a warehouse. And Paul Chessman, who is a friend of mine, and Milton R. Hunter, they borrowed the collection out of Notre Dame, and Milton R. Hunter spent something like about 20-some years writing a book. And the book was forbidden to be published. I don't know all the reasons, but I was able to go in and see the collection after Milton R. Hunter passed away. I don't know if you can see that. But what is interesting to me about this one particular tablet, while there's thousands of them, this one particular tablet shows basically that two different groups of people survived the flood. If you
now,
see
for our radio audience, you need to describe it to them a little bit about what's on this board.
Yeah, what's there? The two different arrows are showing the lower half here is showing people that created an ark, and them and their families, I guess, survived the flood using an ark. So they had to have a knowledge that there was going to be a flood, and the knowledge to be able to build the ark to save their family.
So could there be a possibility the ark was built here?
Yes, I have all the information that proves that it was here, and I'd be happy to share that.
And here is Utah?
Enough time.
Is that Utah?
Right, in Utah.
Okay.
Now, the other group of people up here that survived the flood, according to this tablet, if you read it this way, and this is the way I'm reading it, there's no actual printed work on it, it's just pictures. But anyway, these people up here are caught in the water here, and they survived by reaching high points where this arrow is. There's a hill there. And so what this is saying, I think, is that the flood did not completely cover the earth or baptize the earth like most of us have been taught. And now I have geological evidences of the height of the water, especially with the ark having been found now in the mountains of Ararat. And so you can tell the high water mark, and I can identify the 3 drops in the water during the days of Peleg. And so the waters really, according to my research, did not baptize the earth. And there were survivors of both groups of people that survived the flood.
Which makes some sense, because we would like to think that everybody came off of the ark and peopled the earth, but then we may have new evidences.
I think we do, and it's kind of a fun possibility.
I wondered what you were like as a kid. I could hear your parents saying, there he goes again. He's a born explorer. We can't even find him.
I spent a good portion of my time with my pants down and my father spanking my bottom. for getting into all kinds of trouble.
Well, I think it's interesting because you certainly give us some food for thought, and this is only, if I said at the tip of a pin,
Yep.
what you're sharing. And one of the things that we're looking to do is maybe I'm speaking to Duane Erickson, and he does live, 3 hours away, but to convince him during this good weather that we have during the spring, summer, and fall, to come down once a week and really keep this class going. Have it come at you as an institute class, but more so, a seminary, but more so, but get it in an organized manner.
I'd like to
actually
say
take the Book of Mormon and go with it.
I'd like to say something. I'm nothing more than a Book of Mormon freak or a reader, and I'm no authority of any kind. This is my own personal research. I kind of discard the things that are way out for me, but there's a lot of things that I do share that are way out for a lot of people, and I'm really looking for people that study it as much as I do or close to it, and that we can share notes and find more evidences of truth.
Well, one of the things we can do is let everybody know that this is going to happen on a certain day when you come into town, because you don't need to be interviewed. You just need to have a microphone and let the rest of us get out of your way. I am always open to things that I feel are new and interesting and somewhat entertaining. Other people, they're going to switch off their radio immediately. But I think there's always room to learn. And certainly if you look at this, I mean, even a child could say this is rain and this is a boat and we're on water, and certain things are happening to the drawings of the people in this. And then you have another one.
Here's another one. I don't know if you can see that one. This is the actual size of it. This is, of course, a copy. But this is showing what I believe to be the whole creation, the creation of the planet Earth, and bringing forth of Adam, and the whole thing. And that's another one. These are just 2 tablets of many thousands of them. And
we are out of time. And so that's just enough to kind of tease you a little bit. If you would like to call me and let me know of your interest. I don't know why we couldn't rent a hall somewhere. We've got room here. Invite people to come. Let's talk about that. Okay? Maybe doing that. I'm Pat Sheranian. You've been listening to Duane Erickson today. He's been kind enough to come and spend time. Have a great day and think about it. Be safe. Bye-bye.